Hello, I'm Malcolm Haslett.
And I'm Janice Baker. Malcolm, how would you like to open up your home as a performance space?
Maybe.
And how much do you know about the process of singing?
La 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 la, with the tip of the tongue, the teeth and the lips, with the tip of the tongue.
We'll discover more about both subjects next on Our Time.
With the tip of the tongue, the teeth and the lips.
Really? Is that what
singing?
You have to do?
Isn't that singing?
Well, it doesn't sound like that to me. But should we ask
an expert?
Sure, David. David, welcome back to our program.
Hello,
So,
how are you?
Do
you know any experts?
My friend.
Do you know any experts, David?
I do. I know a lot of experts, yes.
David, we thought it would be an interesting conversation to have, because a lot of people don't really understand that singing is a really natural process in the body for some reason.
Yeah, it
like
is.
Walking, talking.
Absolutely.
Breathing.
In fact, it's an essential part of being a human being.
What, to sing? Coo-ee!
To be able to sing, yeah, to join nature in song. It's really, really important.
But people talk about, oh, no, I'm tone deaf. I can't sing, I'm tone deaf. Please explain.
There is no such thing as tone deafness. And the more that we've studied the voice and the more we understand how humans, the whole human dynamic between the brain and the body works, we've come to understand that actually everyone hears tone and pitch, but being able to replicate it just is more difficult for some. And in the past, all we've said is, look, you're tone deaf, which I think sometimes means it's just going to be harder or perhaps too hard.
But now let's go through this. So just look to the front. So you hear in the ear.
Yes, you do.
And your brain goes.
Correct.
It sends a message down to your diaphragm to take some air.
Absolutely.
Then it comes up through the
vocal folds.
Yes, and then hits the.
Well, it hits the palate or the pharynx, yeah.
And then, with the tip of the tongue, the teeth and the lips, with the tip of the
comes the sound.
Yes.
And I mean, depending on what you've listened to, I often say to people, if I were to give you a basketball and put you in the middle of the arena, middle of a basketball arena for the first time in your life, what are the chances that you're going to get the ball through the hoop? And they always say, well, probably not. So do I say then you should never play sport again?
Quite.
It's the same thing with singing. Getting that coordination, and that's what it is. It's developing the coordination between the ear, the brain, the diaphragm, and all of the other things that help create vocal tone and pitch. That for some people just takes time, but everyone can join in song. And that's really important. Developing the ear and developing the ability to be able to sing and sing in pitch is really, really important.
But what about these people that are just gifted? They just are born.
Oh, please, don't talk about me like that.
I was talking about myself.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I think it's the same with anything. Some people are born with the gift to be able to run. Some people are born with the gift to be able to draw amazing artworks.
It's your parents' genes.
It is, although I've never been able to fit into any of them.
No, I can understand.
What's really, really interesting is, genetics do play a huge role with that. And again, just because someone has difficulty, making maths make sense in their mind doesn't mean that they can't handle money. It takes time, it's repetition, and then doing it again.
Yes.
Well, the reality is you really need to learn, and you can learn in lots of different ways. You could learn if you were just singing along to the radio, but you need to listen to the tune.
Absolutely.
You can sing in the shower.
Yes.
But most people change they change the key in their head and just sing.
Absolutely. Oh, look, and I often say one of the best ways to start singing, because I get parents who will bring their young'uns to me and say, I've got a 3-year-old daughter and she seems to have a really lovely voice. What's the best way to start her singing? And I'll say, join a choir. Join your local choir. It could be church choir, it can be community choir,
or you could even come to my school. We teach groups.
You can, absolutely. But group singing for littlies is a great way.
It's really the only way, I think, David.
Absolutely.
It's not too soon, though, at that age. Is it really too soon to start
good
giving
habits.
lessons?
I think it's good habits.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing is, children are sponges. While adults struggle remembering lyrics and rhythms and tempos and pitches and where they should move. And little kids will pick up all of that without thinking about it because they're uninhibited. And I think that uninhibited ability that children bring to any situation makes them great for learning. Yeah.
Well, you're saying this because you are
I'm a singing teacher. Primarily, that's what I do, is teach people to sing.
But your background isn't just in that area, because you've also been a performer who's worked all around the world. Name drop a couple of the big shows.
Oh, well, Hairspray was the one that I did probably the most recently, but I've been involved in shows like Les Mis and Cats, Phantom of the Opera.
And which one did you do in Singapore?
Oh, good Lord. The performances of Les Miserables.
That must have been nice in those heavy frock coats.
Well, I always say I'm great at being the understudy. So I'm the guy that sat in the wings waiting to go on and in 6 weeks never did. But it was fun.
A lovely time.
But you've played a lot of different roles. Just recently, Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof.
In Fiddler on the Roof, yes.
Yeah. So, but you also teach in schools and you teach privately as well, don't you?
I do. So I tend to take, personally, I take students on from around about the age of 12. And
why is that, David?
Well, partly because of that thing called puberty. Young boys, the voice when it's in the middle of change, whilst...
My voice keeps changing on me.
Yes, I always say it. Again, it's like playing a game of football where the ball keeps changing shape and size. That's what it feels like to them singing.
But just explain what happens to the vocal folds.
Okay, so the vocal folds, you're talking about during puberty?
Yes.
So during puberty, obviously...
For boys, let's start with boys.
We'll talk about for boys. Mm-hmm. So there's a few things that happen for boys. Obviously, there's a hormonal thing that happens that promotes growth. But growth doesn't happen evenly. You know, the first thing you'll notice with a young chap is suddenly they seem to have grown taller. Their legs grow. Then their arms grow. Then you'll notice some growth in the nose. Well, the vocal folds are the same. What will happen is the vocal folds will develop, but the diaphragm to support those vocal folds won't have developed at the same rate. So here they are pushing out the same amount of air at the same compression of air. I'll use that as the same, air pressure that they were doing when they were children, trying to make a much larger instrument work. And it doesn't. So a lot of that is what's happening. I mean, you've got all this growth happening at different rates. So that's
and
why.
Girls?
Well, girls are much the same, although because girls' vocal folds start smaller to begin with, the growth isn't as great, and as a result, the change isn't as evident, but it is evident.
But they still tend to keep a higher register voice.
Oh, they will. They will. In fact, a lot of the time, what they develop is the lot of the lower, beautiful, warm register in a female voice.
Now, amongst all of those things that you know, you're also a show producer, and earlier this year, in fact, I think you were on the first show this year with John
Bacchino.
Yes.
Talking about the show you were doing for the Adelaide Fringe.
Yeah, It's Only Life, which was what a wonderful opportunity, and great to work with someone like John.
Yeah, it was lovely that he could be on our show as well.
Yes.
So you're following in that pattern. This is what, the 7th year?
Oh, it is the 7th year of doing Fringe.
So what are you doing?
Well, I'm going to going back to do some comedy. The last 3 or 4 shows I've done have been all really serious, and I often say that to produce and direct comedy is much harder, because to make comedy work on stage really takes a lot of work. So I'm doing a show called Judge Jackie, Disorder in the Court, which is a Cooman and Diamond show. It's a parody of the Judge Judy franchise, a little bit like Judge Judy meets Jerry Springer the Opera.
Okay.
And is it just you?
No, thank goodness not. No, it's a cast of 5 who play around 25 different characters. So it's a lot of fun.
You're cheap. That's what you are.
I am. I couldn't afford to pay 25.
Everybody pays 5 What's wrong with getting 25 people in? I mean to say. So that show will be happening as part of the Fringe Festival.
It will be.
Here in South Australia. So if you're living interstate, come and join us in South Australia for the Adelaide Festival and Fringe. Is there a festival next year? Or is it
Yes,
just
there's
the
a
Fringe?
festival every year now.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. I know the Fringe is every year, but it's really hard because the festival tends to be a bit smothered by the Fringe now.
Yeah, well, our festival, our Fringe is the second largest Fringe in the world.
Next to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant, David. Will you stay around? Because we have two brilliant guests coming up who, in fact, have opened up their home for performances. And also the Feast Festival is coming up soon. And they've got a show in that.
Well, can't
We're
wait.
talking to them next. David, we'll see you at the end of the show.
I look forward to seeing you then.
When are you going to open up your house? It's big enough to put a whole showroom
Actually, no,
in.
I couldn't I?
We have two lovely guests at the moment, Louise Lawson and Georgia Darcy, who did exactly that, opened up their home to performers and audiences to have, what do you call it, girls? This is Georgia on the right.
Left,
Is that
whichever
right,
way
Lev?
you're looking.
Oh, I don't know. Wave, Georgia.
And
That's
Louise.
you. And Louise.
Welcome,
Fabulous.
girls. Welcome.
Louise, so how did this come about? How did you come up with the idea of opening up
Well,
your home?
We really believe in community building, and we have so many beautiful, wonderful artistic friends that we wanted to provide some opportunity for them to show their beautiful gifts. And often it's really difficult by the time you sort of find venues and advertise and everything. So we bought a house just over 12 months ago in the city after living in the country. And part of the thing was we really wanted to have a performance space. It obviously didn't need to be all that big, but turns out that we did buy a house with a lovely big back deck that's all covered in. And so then we paid to have all the sound equipment and all that put in, so we have professional type equipment there. And every month we just get together people. It's not a public event.
No, you've got a Facebook page that's
Yes.
sort of a closed page
Closed
too.
page, yeah,
Just
because
invited guests.
yeah, invited guests. But we now have about 500 people that hear about it each month.
And you can accommodate them in your backyard.
Not 500.
Oh, and in
I was
the,
gonna
and the
say.
kitchen, the lounge room, and
Yes,
everything.
where do you put
But we
500
open our
people?
whole house. The idea is for us to just welcome people. And they love it. We usually hug everyone, don't we?
Everyone gets a hug.
And yeah, it's
I love
beautiful.
it.
And people feel so at home. And the idea is to build a community of audience members, because then they come, and usually they come and there's about 45 minutes from when they arrive to when anything happens. And so people make connections. We've had
Yes.
lovely people that are looking for work and found work, and people are looking for a musician and found one, and they all sort of eat something and they drink a lot. So by the time
You
that
don't
the artist
provide
arrives...
that though, do you? You don't provide food and
No,
drink,
they bring
so
that.
they bring their own.
They bring that own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time the artist starts, they're pretty tipsy, so they just clap as soon as people turn up. So it's really, really fun. So we did it for the community, and we invite our neighbours and other people that want to come, and friends of friends of friends of friends
so
can
word
come.
of mouth, like just
Yeah.
go on and on.
And then also the community for the artists, because we all need support, and we
I
get a
agree.
lot of support from each other.
Yes.
And that was one of the huge reasons we did that. We needed support and they needed support.
Yeah.
And so this provides a place where everyone can kind of come along and see other artists and have a lovely time. And,
Yes.
and just get a little bit of ideas. Oh, I like the way they did that, I'm going to do that.
Can I just ask, so you say you've actually just moved in from the country. Were you doing this then in the country
Not
as
at all.
well?
Not at
No.
all.
So it's
Well,
all-
Georgia, you've been on the program before talking about the shows that you've done, because you also do an Edith Piaf. Is it an impersonation or just a show about, how would you express that?
I specialise in French language singing, yes.
Right.
I do a lot of Piaf. I'm really transitioning now, though, to a more jazzy contemporary style, and I'm picking up on a lot of the material by a really well-loved young singer in Europe at the moment. She's French, but she's going really big in Europe, called Zaz. And
Right.
it's a jazzy style, and I love her material. The message in her songs is great, so I'm branching out into that, and we'll see that in our
But
new show.
you've got a fantastic voice too, and I love your comedy. So let's have a look at some of the pictures from your performance space at home.
Okay.
Yes.
And it sort of gives us an idea of what it's really like there.
Sure.
So obviously people sit like an audience.
Yes, and that's me. That's Mavis
Oh,
doing
look, I
my
wish you had
comedy. have
dressed up.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's right. It's terrible, isn't it? And that's La La Land, a choir that came and performed at our, and that's me doing my performance.
I love you doing that
There's-
sort of character.
There's Michael Griffiths.
Yes, the doyen of cabaret.
That's Fiddle Chicks. So we have all these fantastic artists.
A lot of variety. People love the variety.
That's
There's
David Salter. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Peter Titchener.
Yeah,
It's nice he won the Academy Award.
Yes, Georgia.
That's me. That's us doing a cabaret show, Georgia with a G. There's Lloyd Spiegel.
Yep.
He's a blues guitarist.
And there's the two of us. We try to do our own stuff a little bit so that we
Great shot.
expose ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't expose ourselves on it.
I know, we
and there's my character.
I
the
wish
fairy
you'd dress
godmother.
up.
Yeah. And so this one's about your show, our show.
Yeah, that's Under the Paris Sky. That's our new show that we're presenting at Fringe. So it's lots of French, but I explain all the meanings and imagery behind the song. So you don't need to speak French at all to enjoy
Right.
it. And of course, we've got a lot of comedy in it as well.
So
because
it's
I don't
really
like
just
to
the
take myself
music.
too seriously.
Well, now you're involved with Feast Festival, which is
Soon,
is it
coming soon.
You're coming soon, but you're on next week.
The
here
24th.
24th
in
of
South Australia.
November.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to have a show called My Fairy Godmother Sucks. And the story about it is I'm the fairy godmother and I do everything in spoonerism, so I'm actually the Gary Fraud mother.
Oh.
So I talk about slopping a dripper and things like that. And Georgia thinks that her life's going off the rails a bit and she really requires some help, don't you? So just like Cinderella, you asked for a fairy godmother
Well,
and...
she got one and her life picked up, so I figured I'd try the same.
Didn't
Yes,
work out
The fairy
that way.
godmother I got, she's got attitude. And so
I can imagine.
yes.
Do you play guitar for that as well?
No, I just...
She hasn't got time.
I haven't
She's
got
only
time.
magic spells to start.
Oh, right.
I do
of
magic
course.
spells and I sort of somehow or other at one point turned the pianist into a dog.
And that's Carol Young. And she
Oh,
does so
she's
well.
fabulous.
Yeah,
yes.
she's fantastic.
So, so this is for Feast Festival.
Yeah.
Feast doesn't happen, or a festival like that doesn't really happen anywhere else but in South Australia, does it? I mean, there's other festivals, but they're not called Feast.
No,
No,
not at
that's
all.
right. That's
So it's
right.
another unique South Australian festival.
It is, yeah.
Now, and talking of unique, there's also the Fringe.
Yes.
We're talking to David about the Fringe before.
Yes.
What's your Fringe offering?
Well, we've got 2 shows in next year's Fringe, and as we just mentioned, one is a new show called Under the Paris Sky. And I'm really excited about that because I'm bringing, we're bringing, but my part of it is to sing beautiful French ballads that people will know, but some new contemporary jazzy ones that people are going to absolutely love. And we always paint the picture of what's happening, and I sprinkle them with some English as well. And I'm hearing that non-French speaking people are really connecting to this material, even though it's not their mother tongue. So I'm presenting all of that, and it's peppered with some fantastic comedic characters. I've got...
Is that you?
I play a
she's
French
Cecile.
maid called Cecile, and I've messed with Georgia a lot, and I steal her things and basically just cause havoc and interrupt her singing, and I mean, I just love it.
Yeah, she really goes crazy. And there's another comedic character in the show called Julienne Carrot. So anyone, and she couldn't slice a vegetable. if she
Whoa.
tried.
That's right. And she's drunk as drunk. Her husband just left her, and she's very unhappy. So, yeah.
I'd love to get both of you on to do a number, perhaps early next year after the Fringes. You've got all of that out of your system.
Yeah.
Come back and do something because I love your characters.
Well, there's a second one we're doing for Fringe, Malcolm and Janice, and that's Louise is doing Mavis. Now,
Right.
Mavis has been born recently, and just before she says, she's just taken out insurance.
Yes.
This is a true story, and it says in the contract that she's insured against people choking on their scones. It's tea and scones with Mavis.
Yeah.
She's
But it's
insured
so
against
funny.
people choking while
Because
they're laughing.
they're laughing,
We
yeah.
thought it was best to be safe.
Yes, absolutely.
So yes, mine's
But
called-
I've seen Mavis, and I think Mavis is very, very funny.
She's extremely
But
funny.
you know what I love about Mavis is that she's she's sort of so Australian.
Oh, yes.
And we've lost that lovely laconic humour that we used to have as a nation.
Yes.
You know, not because we've got such a mixture of people from everywhere forming the Australian nation, but I just remember older people in my family with those expressions.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know what they mean.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, I grew up with British comedy. You know, the Two Ronnies. Like, I could just do the Two Ronnies and Pam Ayres and It Ain't Half Hot Mum and all those. You know, we just dined out on that all the time. And so that's my comedy.
But it's silly comedy, but it's
silly, but funny.
But it's funny.
Yeah.
We've some of the comedy's been a bit too sophisticated in words, and you're looking for some. What are they actually on about?
No, but a lot too these days. Comedy seems to be more about their families
and themselves.
Yes.
Themselves. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
No, Mavis has some wonderful observations about daily life that everyone can relate to. And she's wicked, but you love her because Louise's got this really, you know, butter wouldn't melt sort of face.
So don't bring scones if you're coming along to see the show.
No, scones are provided. Yeah. So what happens is that it will go for, I do 40 minutes, and when you arrive you get tea and scones, that's provided, and then we have a little break so that you can put your undertaker on speed dial for the second part. And I just say you must bring, you know, Valium, Ventolin, angina tablets, wee pads, and potentially.
Have you got one of the heart starter things?
Yeah, one of the heart starters there.
Case?
Because we've had people say it's a torrent of comedy, and many hours later they think, oh, and they laugh about something else.
Yes, and that's good old-fashioned comedy. I love that.
Yeah.
Girls, stay with us. We'll get David back and we'll tell you something fabulous when we return. The good news is, everybody, we're all singers. As I've proven so far tonight.
You poor thing.
But we were just talking in the break. Where did you learn to sing, Louise?
I just sort of kind of taught myself because I just played guitar on my own in the dark because I didn't want anyone to hear me. And then
you played your guitar in the dark because you didn't want anyone to hear you.
Or see me, yes.
Oh, and see you.
Yeah.
Look, where did you learn?
My sister and I used to sing in the back of the car on long car trips, and I just kept going. And recently I've had a few lessons to learn how to really refine it. But yeah, I just have done a lot of it.
That's interesting though. As we age, I think it's because our body doesn't work quite as easily as it did when we were kids, when it was perfectly natural, I think, to sing. What about you, David?
I learnt to sing with an elocution teacher in primary school.
Whole Noel Brown Carl?
Yes, around the ragged rocks, the ragged rascal ran.
Fabulous. Where did you learn to sing, Mother?
Well, my mum sang, my grandma sang. So weekends or, you know, any occasion that we got together, Auntie would play the piano and everybody would sing. And, you know, drives just in the car. We would always sing along to the radio, something on the radio, we'd always sing along.
Do you sing every day?
No.
I do.
Georgia does, in the bath. But you know what? The cat hates it. The cat hates it. She goes in all the time to check she's all right. She does.
What about you, David?
I sing every day, absolutely.
And do you warm up every morning? Is that what you do?
No.
Do you sing in the car?
Yes, a fair bit. Yes, I will sing along to things that I listen to.
You stop at the lights?
I do. They especially if they're red. Yes.
Yes. I meant singing.
Janice?
I used to sing. I've got 3 sons, and I used to sing in the car. And
you used to sing My Three Sons?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But they used to say, "Oh, shut up, Mum." Okay.
The joys of all this. Look, we're going to keep talking, and we hope that you go to see these lovely girls if you're here in South Australia at Feast Festival next week, or during the Fringe, David, with your show, which is called
Judge Jackie, Disorder in the Court.
Sounds fantastic.
And you're doing anything?
Are we coming back? So yes.
Oh, okay. We'll see you next time on Our Time. Keep yourself nice till then.
Take care.